Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films and Cloud City Casino, a Star Wars gaming podcast over at StarWarsReport.com, bringing you a look at another Star Wars role-playing game book as it is released. This is Allies and Adversaries. Now, I didn't say Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, or Force and Destiny because this actually is not for any of them, yet for all of them. It's not specified for one particular set, hence being black instead of any of the other color schemes. I know Force and Destiny is black also, but it is still slightly different color scheme with, the subtitle and everything here. So this can actually be used with any of them. And it's sort of a cross between a compilation and a new book. It's kind of like whenever they put together some of the compiled things like complete locations and that sort of thing, where sometimes you'll get a book that brings together stuff from other books, but then adds some new content as well to increase the value proposition. That's basically what we have here in this $40 source book. It is Allies and Adversaries, the essential collection of heroes and villains. And that's what it is. It is a massive, massive collection of named film, TV, etc. heroes and villains, plus different types of heroes and villains you might run across that are simply just regular, fondly used characters, right? Like Imperial officers and stuff like that. But many of the characters we see in the films in particular show up here. It's divided up into basically four main sections: Rebels and Heroes, Imperials and Despots, Scum and Villainy, and Creatures and Citizens, right? So as you go through here, that's basically all that it is. I mean, you're not getting a ton of new information. There's a little bit on new skills, but when it comes to like new broadly usable game information, that's not really what this is for. This is to give you characters to drop into your situations. This is to give you a lot of NPCs to use. So as we get into Rebels and Heroes, we're talking characters like Akbar, K2SO, Jyn Erso, Lando Calrissian, but then we have the Lasan Honor Guard, not a single character, but a group where you might want to use someone. We have Luke, we have a shipwright from Mon Cala or Mon Calamari, and so on, right? So potential members of the Alliance. Saw Gerrera is in here as well, and so on. Not as much with TV as with movies. And then you get into Imperials and Despots, and we've got characters that we've seen before. We've got sort of the generic ones like the Corporate Sector Authority Vice Prex, but we've got Vader in here, we've got the Death Troopers, we've got Palpatine and Krennic, and so on. Really, if you've been wanting to play with film characters, instead of grabbing a bunch of different source books, this is the one to grab because you got tons that you can use. Okay. As you go along here, you will eventually find yourself in Scum and Villainy. This is probably my favorite section because it includes one of my favorite characters, perhaps my single favorite character of the new canon, if you want to call it that, Dr. Chelilona Afra, who is, of course, profile here alongside 000 and BT-1, as you would expect from their comic series and the Darth Vader comic series that preceded it. Just kind of bounty hunters, you got your crime lords, you got Hondo Ohnaka in here, Jabba the Hutt, the big names that you would expect. And they're all in here alphabetically, though of course you kind of got to know what you're looking for unless you just skim the table of contents, because they're not necessarily the most intuitively named items. Then Creatures and Citizens, exactly what it sounds like. Not the good guys, not the bad guys, not any particular faction, but you've got creatures, you've got musicians and artists and people like that, you've got an Ewok shaman and so on. So what you would expect. So each section named exactly as you would expect for what's in it, but for basically a game that is so huge now with so many different source books for the three different product lines, now different eras even getting source books, it's sometimes tough to find exactly that one character profile that you're looking for, particularly if you're looking for one of a specific film character that may have been mentioned or showed up in one of the other books. So one of the cool things you can do with this is have a bunch of those great characters that you can use to really add some film tie-in feels to your campaigns, all in one place, along with adding in a few extras that haven't been seen before that add extra value for those who maybe are on the fence about picking it up but aren't sure if it's really worth $40 to just not have to search through a bunch of books or not. For me, I think by playing the Star Wars RPG, any of the three, this is definitely a no-brainer purchase. Probably the first really no-brainer purchase in a while for the Star Wars role-playing line for Fantasy Flight Games.